Not all stars accept being consumed by their fate. Some, in the very instant their heart ceases to beat, become trapped in a strange limbo, suspended between what they once were and what they should never become. Tormented by forces that dance at the very edge of physics, transformed into something we could not even name for a very long time. At that threshold where matter is stripped of its identity and the laws of reality are stretched to the brink of fracture, an entity emerges that obeys neither the logic of stars nor that of their corpses. An anomaly. The child the cosmos never meant to conceive, yet one that can turn what should be an ending into the beginning of something far more dangerous. A cruel whim of nature. A monster forged in a place where our equations begin to capitulate before the darkest impulses of a universe that has never understood the meaning of mercy, that has turned magnetism into a weapon to destroy everything that dares approach its domain. An executioner disguised as a star, to whom gravity has granted the authority of absolute annihilation. In January 1979, several gamma-ray satellites orbiting Earth detected a brief flash of radiation, a faint, diffuse signal coming from the Large Magellanic Cloud. The gamma-ray bursts known at the time were extremely energetic and very short. These, however, had lower energies within the gamma range, closer to X-rays, and they were not mere spikes. They lasted longer. Although peculiar for not fitting that pattern, they were not immediately identified as an important observation. A strange signal that simply faded away. That region of the sky fell silent once more, until the lament returned. In orbit around the Sun, after its flyby of Venus, the Soviet probes Venera 11 and Venera 12 were struck by a wave of radiation unlike anything we had ever recorded before. In a fraction of a millisecond, their gamma-ray detectors went from registering a stable background of around 100 counts per second to levels off the scale, more than 200,000 counts. The solar system was being pierced by an invisible kamikaze. Exactly 11 seconds later, millions of kilometers away, the probe Helios 2, also orbiting the Sun, recorded the same pulse. Immediately after, it reached Venus, saturating the instruments of the Pioneer Venus orbiter. Finally, a network of satellites in Earth orbit began to go blind one after another. It was the same signal, the same front of radiation, advancing at the speed of light. The intensity had been absurd, more than 100 times greater than any gamma-ray burst detected until then. Whatever it was had released, in 0.2 seconds, the amount of energy the Sun produces in 1,000 years. And although there were no precedents, the fact that it had been recorded by so many probes at such distant points made it possible to reconstruct its origin. All trajectories converged in a single direction, the Large Magellanic Cloud, the same place where earlier that year that faint flash had been detected, at the time filed away as a curious anomaly, which we now suspected might be repeating itself, but with far greater intensity. In the following months, we recorded 3 more signals coming from that region of the sky. Not with the same intensity, but with the same impossible pattern. Gamma-ray pulses with wavelengths closer to X-rays. Longer lasting and repetitive, as if this were not a single explosion, but an object alternating between silence and eruption. Astronomers gave it a provisional name: soft gamma-ray repeaters. And with more detailed analyses, they realized the signals did not fade away abruptly. After the initial flash of brutal energy, which lasted fractions of a second, the source continued emitting a tail of radiation for several minutes. The burst was followed by minutes of weaker emission that was not constant. It pulsed, as if it had a rhythm. The tail was interpreted as energy trapped in the environment surrounding the object, being released progressively, and the modulation as a property emerging from the object's rotation. 8 seconds. 8 seconds between one pulse and the next. A cadence that could only mean one thing. At the heart of that cataclysm lay a stellar corpse spinning upon itself at immense speed. It was the first major suspicion. Somehow, this event was linked to a neutron star. The ultra-dense remnant of the core of a massive star that, upon collapsing, has been left on the very brink of tearing the fabric of reality apart. However, a normal neutron star did not solve the mystery. We knew these objects spin rapidly, emit energy, and gradually slow down due to electromagnetic emission and their magnetic field. By measuring how fast they rotate and how quickly they decelerate, we could calculate the force responsible for slowing them down. In a typical neutron star, the magnetic fields driving this process are around 1 trillion Gauss, already extraordinarily intense. Considering Earth's magnetic field is barely 0.5 Gauss. But when astronomers ran the numbers for these gamma-ray repeaters, they found something unsettling. The object was rotating relatively slowly, and yet slowing down far too quickly. The only way to explain that rate of deceleration was with a magnetic field vastly stronger, 1 quadrillion Gauss. It wasn't that it couldn't be a neutron star. It had to be one, but pushed to an absurd extreme. The equations were not failing. They were describing something we could barely accept. A neutron star with a magnetic field, hundreds or even thousands of times more intense than anything we thought possible. The universe had just revealed the existence of a new class of stellar corpse. The most dangerous star it has ever forged. Humanity had witnessed, for the first time, the roar of a magnetar. Lost in the vastness of our island of light, a star, yielding to the power it has greedily amassed over billions of years, has poisoned its own heart. The pact between the two forces that allow light to exist, in a harmony that is nothing more than a long-sustained lie, has been broken. Gravity has broken its word. The destiny is fulfilled. Its foundations collapse, and the void becomes witness to the agonizing death of a fallen god. But in the midst of the darkness of that cemetery, the light refuses to cross the threshold of death. Its heart, though subjected to a torment that has come close to shattering space and time, continues to beat. The star has clung to the last remnant of life, to one final hope. The child the universe never meant to conceive now claims the right to reign, to occupy the broken throne. Like a phoenix, a new star is born from the ashes. A corpse made of the densest material in the universe, endowed with a gravitational power 200 billion times greater than that of our world. A tiny sphere, barely 12 miles in diameter, yet with a mass comparable to that of the Sun, which we have named a neutron star. Though in a corrupted existence, it has managed to retain life within its grasp. But it has paid a heavy price for it. A sentence that will follow it forever. To see itself transformed into a monster. For it may have evaded death, but not the very laws of physics. The angular momentum it possessed before collapsing must be preserved. And since it has shrunk to such an infinitesimal size, the only way to achieve this is to increase its rotation speed. Physics demands that this corpse spin fast. Very fast. So fast that it no longer resembles anything it once was. But in some cases, that is not the end of the transformation. Some neutron stars cross an extraordinarily rare boundary. A deviation in their history. An initial condition pushed to the limit. When they are born spinning fast enough, with a period shorter than 8 milliseconds, and are extremely hot, a dynamo mechanism is triggered. A process that converts the kinetic energy of rotation and heat into magnetic energy, amplifying the intensity of the magnetic field. At that moment, and if the progenitor star already possessed an unusually strong magnetic field, one that would have intensified enormously as it collapsed and became concentrated within such a small radius, the conditions for an impossible cosmic alchemy have been met. Something that envelops every layer, that pierces its surface and projects outward into space. A perfect storm. In those first moments of existence, when everything is still unstable, that magnetic field is amplified. It twists. It reorganizes within the star, like an invisible tempest that finds no equilibrium. Rotation, density, accumulated energy. Everything converges in an instant that drives that field far beyond what a conventional neutron star can sustain. From that moment on, we can no longer speak of a mere corpse. We are dealing with something entirely different. A magnetar has just been born. The most dangerous star in the universe, bearer of the most intense magnetic field ever known. So intense that it completely dominates its surroundings. It twists matter, distorts the trajectories of charged particles, and imposes its rule, even at the subatomic scale, an invisible weapon that governs everything within its domain. And all evidence suggests that around it, a world must behold the corpse of what was once its parent star. A rocky planet several times more massive than Earth, condemned to follow an extreme orbit. A constant fall. A desperate escape that is never completed. Because with each cycle, at its closest approach, that world ventures into the forbidden territory of the Magnetar. and there, nothing can survive. Its surface is swept by high-energy radiation, in the form of X-rays and gamma rays, and by the power of the magnetic field. Its very atoms are subjected to an electromagnetic pressure that dismantles any structure. There is no atmosphere that can endure it, no refuge, only a landscape, punished again and again by a monster that cannot coexist with anything, not even with itself. Its own magnetic field strains its surface, dragging it in incompatible directions. The field lines pull in opposing ways. And the star, unable to tame its own fury, can only endure. The crust resists, until it no longer can, and it yields. A fracture opens. A minimal readjustment, a microscopic release, within a structure subjected to impossible pressure. But in that beast, even such an insignificant displacement is enough to trigger something far greater. The surface breaks. The magnetar trembles. A starquake has just occurred. A tremor on the surface of the star, equivalent to a magnitude 32 on the Richter scale. A colossal jolt to which the entire magnetic field responds. The lines are stretched to their limit. They twist, cross, and collapse in a violent reconnection that suddenly releases the energy accumulated over years. Everything the magnetar had stored escapes in a fraction of a second, projected into the void as a pulse, a burst, a flare of gamma rays that long ago emerged from the corrupted heart of that magnetic beast. "42,000 years after that cataclysm, and after crossing the galaxy from that distant edge, where the monster lies, the radiation reached our world. Telescopes and observatories across the planet recorded the event, the most powerful gamma ray flare ever observed. SGR 18620 had released, in less than a second, the energy the sun produces in 150,000 years of activity. It was the brightest phenomenon ever detected from beyond the solar system. Despite lying 42,000 light-years away, the Magnetar's eruption, that starquake on its surface, was capable of inducing a significant increase in the ionization of Earth's upper atmosphere, leaving behind a trace that shows us that only distance protects us. Because we have seen that if that same outburst had occurred within less than 10 light-years, Earth's ozone layer would have been completely destroyed, leading to a sixth great mass extinction and the absolute end of the human species. Fortunately, the closest one to our home lies at a safe distance of about 9,000 light-years. To this day, we have identified only 24 Magnetars, with just 6 more candidates awaiting confirmation, showing us, considering the violence with which they manifest their existence, that they are rare, and above all, fleeting entities. Transient phases in the life of some neutron stars, that for what on a cosmic scale is but a sigh, between 10,000 and 100,000 years, become the most extreme magnets in the universe, before slowly dissipating their power. They are not common. They are not stable. They answer to no lasting equilibrium. They are anomalies born from the most twisted whims of physics, manifesting with a violence capable of tearing at the fundamental fabric of reality. And after living a short, very short life, they return to the stillness from which they were born, leaving behind something just as powerful: the evidence that nature is capable of creating entities that dance at the very limits of our theories, and that, if only for an instant, remind us that we are inhabitants of an empire that has never understood the meaning of eternal pacts